Okay, in this video we're going to go over how to access the alarm roster call-out list, and we're using our standard off-the-shelf app here as a demo. You may have a custom generated one, but some of the stuff I'm going to talk about here should follow that as well. There's a few different ways to pull up the little pop-up window for the alarm list. In this app, there's an alarm notification button right here, or there may be another one in the lower left area. You can always pull up the page list menu, and you may have it as an entry there. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and a small pop-up window comes up, or something similar to that, that shows you. In this case, there are 4 programmed roster alarm lists. You may have, I don't know, a different list depending on who's on call or who might be on vacation. Some customers have had, you can always change the wording on that to be for your system. At any one point, only one of these can be active. Right now, none of them are active. As you can see, they're all red. Hitting this button puts it in that mode. So if I choose and click roster A, that makes the A list active. Let's go ahead and look at the contents of that. So I'm going to hover over it and right click that button, and then a small dialog comes up. I'm going to left click the contacts, and then this should get you in behind the scenes to show you the contact order of that roster list. There are 6 entries here. There's a couple of ways you can reach out to someone. One way is by voice. So if you have the Twilio voice over Ethernet option with your application, it'll give you a phone call to your phone, kind of like the old-fashioned dialers on a plain old telephone system line, and there'll be an automated computer robot message that'll ask you, it'll say who it is. This is the SCADA system for your town, and it'll ask you for a password and alert you that there's an alarm, and you'll be given a 4-digit password to type in, and then it'll recognize you and then read off what the alarms are, and you kind of follow what it says to acknowledge it. Another method would be, let's say the voice active here is for these contacts: Ken, Metro, Keith. You can also get a text message through your phone. There's a couple different ways to get that depending on your provider. So this fella has a text, and you would put in the text number followed by a unique network attribute there. Here's another one for Verizon. So when you go through the list, that would text you, and you simply copy and paste and respond in your text browser back to the cloud app to acknowledge that alarm. An email is also possible. So here's an email address. This guy, Duty Man, has an email, and you would reply in the same way you would with your email. And in the body of the reply is a code that tells you who you are and how to acknowledge it. In order to acknowledge it, if you see, you have to have a valid contact username in this field. So these are all standard usernames for this app, this demo app. The contact description is just, you can put any informative word in there you want. So here I have a Metro text and just a Metro voice. You can change the order of which these alerts will sequence using this up and down arrow. So if I wanted to put the voice calls up to the top, so I choose Ken. I'm using the left mouse button, by the way, and I can just move him up a couple of spots there, you see. And maybe this Metro guy, I'd move him up a few spots, just like that. If any one of these you didn't want to have called out or executed for the short term, you could select this do not contact. So as you can see, it goes red with an X for disabled. One thing, if you are adding new contacts or moving them around, make sure that if you have a text or an email entry that you enable this continue roster sequence checkbox. If you don't, it'll come down to that entry and send out a message and then stop. So you kind of want it to cycle through and start back up at the top again. The voice calls will automatically do that. Here, if I choose this guy, you can see that feature is not required. I'm going to go ahead and re-enable this guy here. If you wanted to add a new one, you simply just click on an open space there, and I'll quickly type a guy's name, Johnny text, close enough, and a username which should match a username in your accounts. Otherwise, he doesn't know how to attribute the acknowledge button from. If you don't, it just simply will not acknowledge. So I know this is a username. And if it was a phone number, you'd put, the regular phone number. I think you can use a dash or not. There's a generic phone number right there. Okay. Be sure you click OK at the bottom to save that. So I'm going to do that. I like to go right back in it and make sure that worked. So let's pull that back up again. Right click, contacts. And sure enough, there's Johnny TX'd. I can fix that if I wanted to. And of course, if he was a text or an email recipient, you would make sure you wanted to continue through roster sequence. If I wanted to put him at the top, I would have to scroll him up. In order to test some alarms real quick, as you see, you can enable this test checkbox, and that'll send out a generic default alarm code and go through the roster sequence. As you can see, the alarm is active now. I'm going to go look. And sure enough, the default test alarm is active. Within a minute or so, it'll show the next event, which is to either call or send out the text or email. We're not going to wait for that, so I'm going to uncheck that. It shows that it's cleared. And there's another video for the alarm screen we just saw you can look at. It'll also give you more information on that.